Great to welcome you to our carol service. My name's Lee. I'm one of the pastors. And I'd love to start by showing you my 3 favorite photo bombing pictures. Okay, I don't know if you like photo bombing. It's when you deliberately put yourself into someone else's picture and you're not supposed to. So here are my 3 favorites. Do we see the first one? Okay, so I love it. That squirrel, how he managed to just get to that point just at that moment. It's amazing. But I think the second one is better. Do you want to see the second one? You like it? It's great. You think, how did that walrus? Okay, the third one is more difficult to see, but I think it's one of my favorites. Let's see the third one. Now, some of you might not be able to see that, so we've got a close-up version of that. Do you see? Her Majesty the Queen. I think they were taking a picture thinking she was in the background, but she was amazing. So she's smiling. That's the ultimate photobomber, I think, Queen Elizabeth II. I love photobombing. It makes you ask the question, doesn't it? Why are those people in the picture? Should they be there, or are they intruders into the scene? Now, when you look closely at the Christmas story, I think we have the potential of a group of people who are photobombing Christmas. Now, you might think, really? We know the characters so well, don't we? So you've got your Mary and Joseph. You may or may not have a donkey. You got the shepherds who were out in the field and they see an angel and then they see a choir of angels. You got all those people. You got the Magi as well. And you say, Lee, well, they're all part of the Christmas story. Who are the photobombers? Well, my question is about the Magi. Why are the Magi in the Christmas story? Because when you look at it, it looks like they shouldn't be there, and they're just photobombing somebody's party. Now, why is that? Well, if you look closely at the bit of the Bible that was read to us, Matthew chapter 2, and in verse 2, we are told that they come from where? From the east. Now, remember, this was a story set in Israel, not in Scarborough. Okay, so the east of Scarborough, we'd be like, well, this is just water. Okay, so back to Israel, on the east, it meant far away into the east. So these people, this group of people who came, the Magi, were probably from a country like modern-day Iran or Iraq. And if you look back in Google, as I did last night, the mileage between there and Jerusalem, we're talking about 900 miles. That's a long way, isn't it, to disturb your life, to get up and go 900 miles to Jerusalem. Now, the question is, why are they doing that? Because remember, the Christmas story announces a message that a king has been born. But who's king? Israel's king. We're told that the king of the Jews has been born, okay? And I get it then, if you are Jewish at that time, maybe you're one of the Jewish shepherds, maybe you're one of the Jewish people, you'd be going, woohoo! Okay, you might even be going, joy. You remember that song, joy, joy, dancing around? But why are the Magi excited? Why are they disturbing their life and coming 900 miles? What on earth has it got to do with them? It almost seems that the Magi have come and photobombed somebody else's party. Well, what I want to say for the next few minutes is that they are not intruders. They're not strangers uninvited into someone else's party. They should be there, and it's really good news for every single person listening now that the Magi were there. So how do we know that the Magi are there not by accident? Because if you look back to verse 2, we are told that they saw something in the sky. They saw some significant star in the sky. And because they saw a star in the sky, they left their life And they traveled very, very far. Now, 900 miles, do you know how long it is from the top end of Britain to the bottom end, from John O'Groats to Land's End? Well, it's only about 830 miles. So that's a significant journey. But how do we know that it was all deliberate? Because the God who made me, the God who made you, the God who holds it all together, he put something significant in the sky to get their attention. Now, we don't really know what it was. People speculate all the time. Was it a meteorite? Was it like the constellation of planets, and they all had some significance? Some speculate that one of the planets meant mighty king, and the other one meant this was the nation of Israel, and they kind of coincided together, and they went, these astrologers went, I know what I need to do. I need to go and check that out. I don't know, but what I do know is that the God who made them wanted to get their attention, and he wanted them to travel 900 miles, so he deliberately put something in the sky to get their attention so they would move it. And do you know something? They did. It was so important that they came and they traveled. Now, why didn't they go straight to Bethlehem? You ever wondered that? Because we know, don't we, that the baby's born in Bethlehem. You might be thinking, did their GPS malfunction just on the edges? Well, they didn't know the detail, did they? They knew that they had to come to Israel because a very important king was born, but they didn't know the detail. God had their attention, but they came to the capital city probably because either they thought this great king would be living in the capital city, or at least those officials in the capital would know what to do. So they come to the capital city. And what do they discover when they get there? Well, they tell people, and King Herod, he discovers that a new king has been born. And what's King Herod's reaction? Does he go, joy, joy, joy? You can see why I wasn't in the dance. But joy? No, he's not joyful at all. We're told that he's disturbed. Of course he's disturbed. Because when you are acting like the king of Israel, and you are told that a more important king has arrived, the true king of Israel, he's come into town, you don't go, joy, joy. You go, oh no, I'm not in charge anymore. I've got to change my life. So he's disturbed. So he gets his religious leaders around him, and they said, tell me then, where is this king going to be born? And what do they do? And here's the significance. They go, not into Google, they get their Bibles out. They get what we call the Old Testament out. They turn to a book called Micah, and they say to King Herod, when the king is to be born, he will be born in Bethlehem. All right, Bethlehem. So what happens next? Well, the Magi, they've traveled 900 miles already, so they're going, fantastic. We now have the clarity we need. You see what happens? Here's the point. God gets their attention by something significant in the sky, but God gives them clarity through what? Through the Bible. That's what they need to get the details. So they go, fantastic, we're heading to Bethlehem. But here's the thing that's always disturbed me. What about the religious leaders? Do you know what they do? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. They've got all the details at their fingertips. Do you know how far it is from Jerusalem to Bethlehem? 5 miles. They do nothing. Some of you are going to travel further to get home. If you'd just been told that the King of Kings, your promised Savior, has been born, would you not make the effort to travel 5 miles down the road to think, maybe he's here? But they do nothing. But the Magi do. The Magi go to Bethlehem. They're overjoyed when they see the baby. And their response tells us how we should be responding to Jesus. Do you know what they do? They come to him and they worship him. Worship him, okay? That's how we are to respond to Jesus. Now, I don't know if you have ever watched Horrible Histories. Has anybody ever watched Horrible Histories? Yeah? Some of the adults. Come on, adults. We have to do it as well. We're watching through it with our kids and grandkids and stuff like that. Horrible Histories, okay? Now, at a certain point in Horrible Histories, you see something happen on the screen, and then normally there's a little sign that appears, and I think someone called Rat might hold up the little sign. And you see this stuff, and then the rat kind of goes, "Excuse me? Let me tell you what happened back then. That's what they were doing." Okay, that's what rat does. I know I could be Miss Piggy. Okay, that's my only voice. So at this point in the Bible story, we take it as read. Oh, yeah, look, they worship Jesus. But if this was horrible history, do you know what would be happening? I don't know if it would be rat or somebody else, but someone would be going, "Excuse me? Do you know that you should only worship God?" What are you doing worshiping Jesus? But here's the thing. There isn't a sign that comes up and says, "You've got it all wrong," because they did everything right. Because who is the baby? The baby is God himself. Emmanuel, God with us. As they look at the baby, this is God come into the world that he created, come to save, come to rescue, and their response is exactly the response that all of us should make to Jesus. We are to worship him. And how do they worship him? They get out their most treasured possessions and they lay it at the feet of Jesus Christ and they say to him, "You can have everything. All my devotion, your direction for the rest of my life, you will be in charge. I am going to worship you." Now you might be thinking to yourself, "Well, why would you why worship anyone? Why can I not just worship myself?" Well, here's the truth. None of us can worship ourselves. We are wired to worship outside of ourselves. So we must worship either something else or someone else. There's no choice. You might be a selfish worshiper, and the thing you worship is all designed to give you joy and security and so on, but we must worship something or someone outside ourselves. But here's the truth. Whatever it is that we worship, apart from Jesus Christ, will massively disappoint us, or we will disappoint them. Some of us in this room are worshiping our careers. Let me tell you something about your career. Even if you have been working in some place for 40 or 50 years, give it a few months once you retire and nobody knows your name. It's gone. You might be worshiping one of your family. Maybe it's a spouse. Maybe it's your kids. Let me tell you, if you worship them, you're in real danger of putting expectations on their shoulders that they cannot bear, and you will crush them. Or they will thoroughly disappoint you. We need hope and joy and stability for this life and into eternity. So when your head hits the coffin, we need to know that it's going to continue. And there's only one person in the whole universe that we can worship that will get us through this life and into eternity, and it's that baby, Jesus. The Magi are in the story. They are not there to photobomb the story. They are deliberately placed in the story to tell us that Jesus Christ is for all of us. These non-Jewish people are dragged into the story. They are not intruding. God says, "Come on, get a snap at the middle. Because you are here to tell every single person that Jesus is for you." And then they tell us how we should respond. We are to worship him. So as I finish, here are some questions. Where are you on the journey? Is it that God's got your attention? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the sky. Maybe every night you look at the sky, the sunsets, and you just go, "That's amazing. I don't think we're here by chance." We're not here by chance. God's made it all. God made us. It's stunning. It's beautiful. And maybe God's got your attention, and maybe he's had it for years and years and years, but you're stuck because you don't have clarity on who God is. You don't have clarity on the future, and that's because you need to go to stage 2. What did the Magi need to get them to Jesus? They needed the Bible. So if you feel stuck, I want to invite you to come and open up the Bible with us, and God will give you the clarity that you need. And then when we get the clarity we need and we see Jesus for who he is, Emmanuel, God with us, our response is to put down everything at the feet of Jesus, knowing that he is the one that will look after us, and we should worship him. So let me offer you 2 things. I'd love to offer you this book. It's free. We've got some at the exit. It's called Searching for Christmas. We love as you go. Take a free book. Get more detail. Get more clarity. as you open up these pages and discover more about Jesus. And we want to invite you back next week. So we're not having 2 services. We're having 1 service next week, 10:30. You can come early if you want, but come and open up the Bible with us. And I promise you, as you sit under God's word week by week, you'll get more clarity and you'll discover why worshiping Jesus is wonderful. And for all of us who have, if you've got to the point where you have given your life to Jesus and you do worship him as God in flesh, Emmanuel, God with us, you have not made a mistake. You have given your life to the one person who will look after you now and who will take you through death and one day will raise you in his presence forever.